Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar, Storytelling Strategies to Maximize Your Year-End Fundraising. We're heading into the biggest or busiest time of the year, not just for nonprofits, but for the world at large. Here we have Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Giving Tuesday, and then all of the major holidays. Now, amidst the bustle and busy schedules, your cause still needs to rise above and inspire action from your supporters. In today's exciting webinar, we will be discussing why well-crafted storytelling is the best way to reach more donors during your year-end campaign. We'll look at how to build a strong and inspiring narrative, impactful ways to share your story to keep your cause top of mind, and storytelling tools that drive year-end giving when competition for donors' attention is at an all-time high. Now, before we get started, we want to welcome you and welcome your participation in today's webinar and are here to answer your questions. So be sure to submit your questions into the question box on the GoToWebinar control panel. We have fundraising experts standing by to answer questions both during the webinar and at the end when we will hold an open Q&A session with our experts. We hope you are inspired by today's presentation, and as a reminder, we will send the recording and slides to all our registrants afterwards. All right, now today's webinar is presented by MobileCause. MobileCause understands the ever-changing landscape of fundraising your nonprofit must navigate while still trying to reach your goals. Here at MobileCause, we not only provide comprehensive online and event fundraising solutions, but also the one-on-one strategy from dedicated fundraising specialists that will help simplify your efforts and maximize your results. With the industry's best support team available to you 24/7, we are there when you need it most. MobileCause has become the trusted partner for nonprofits looking to scale their fundraising quickly and efficiently without paying any transaction fee. Together, we can grow your nonprofit like never before. Now, let me introduce you to today's wonderful fundraising experts. Lindsay Sandoval is a digital fundraising strategist with MobileCause, where she works one-on-one with nonprofits to maximize their fundraising campaign success. She creates and sets up campaigns, provides fundraising and donor engagement strategies, and creates supportive communication and promotional tools to help nonprofits reach and exceed their campaign goals. Corey Blake is also a digital fundraising strategist with MobileCause, where he strategizes with nonprofits on how to efficiently set up their campaigns, host virtual, in-person, and hybrid fundraising events, and how to maximize their online tools for the best results. He also helps craft engaging multi-channel communication plans and helps nonprofits more effectively turn one-time donors into lifelong advocates of their cause. And I'm Scott Cowshed. I'm the training manager here at MobileCause. Now, today's agenda is just full of great takeaways to help all of you run a more effective year-end campaign using standout storytelling strategies. Lindsay will start us off by taking a look at why storytelling is so crucial for your year-end efforts and really, let's be honest, your year-round efforts, and what it takes to craft an inspiring story around your cause. And then we'll hear from Corey about all the storytelling tools that you can use to get your message seen and heard. Plus, he'll be sharing real-world examples of effective storytelling in action. All right, now, before we begin discussing storytelling strategies to maximize your year-end fundraising, we do have a quick poll question for all of you. So let me go ahead and launch this poll here. There we go. It may take a second or two, so I'll go ahead and read it off here. The question is, where does your year-end giving campaign stand? And are you ready to go? In fact, you've already launched it. Pieces are in pieces are in place, still tying it together. Your number 3 is started planning, but a little behind schedule. And of course, number 4 is there's still time to create a campaign, right? So let's see where you are. Let's see those answers coming in. All right. Still getting a lot of activity. Nice. Okay, let's see. All right, looks like it's slowing down. So I'll go ahead and close this poll, and let's take a look at these results here. It is kind of interesting to see where everyone is with where they're at with their year-end campaigns. A lot are. Looks like the most of you are have those pieces in place, but you're still tying it together. But having a nice mix of stuff here. Started planning all of this here. So nice to see this where we are. So whether you are like the 16% who's full steam ahead or just dipping your toes in, well, today's webinar uh, will give you a lot of useful tools and ideas. So let's go ahead and dive into this, shall we? So join me in welcoming Lindsay Sandoval. Give her control here. Digital fundraising strategist to kick us off with how storytelling boosts year-end giving results. Over to you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Scott, and hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining with us today. As Scott mentioned, today I'll be sharing with everyone some important strategies to implement while you're telling your story for your year-end campaigns. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. Now, despite the changes and the challenges of the last couple years, the year end still remains the busiest and most crucial time for nonprofits. 10 to 12% of annual giving occurs in the last 3 days of the year. 30% of annual giving occurs in December. And 28% of nonprofits raise 26 to 50% of their annual funds from year-end giving alone. Now, with the holiday season, it does create additional and increased competition. And with all of the competition for donors' attention, whether that's Giving Tuesday or major holidays or just the last couple weeks of the tax-deductible year, it becomes even more important that your outreach really resonates with your donors and that you convey your unique mission. And one of those ways is through storytelling. Now, there are a lot of nonprofits that could be potentially missing out on donations in these last weeks of the year by not strategizing ahead of time and limiting the outreach of their efforts. So while you're planning your year-end fundraising now, you have to remember that not everyone is going to see every message that you have and that you're sharing. So you really have to share your story more than you think. You can really maximize on your year-end giving by planning your strategy ahead of time. So now we're just a little under 8 weeks towards the end of the year. So really now is the time to start doing that. Building out your strategy and thinking about how are you going to approach the year end. It's also really important to share your story on all of your channels. So whether that's your website, email, social media platforms, whatever platforms you're currently using, text messages, or any other way that you're normally communicating with your donors and your supporters. You want to continue that multi-channel communication approach in the year end. And then also crafting an authentic storytelling. So using storytelling as a way to set your organization apart from the other organizations that are also fundraising in the year end. Now, authentic story telling really sets your mission apart and moves people to give. And that's because people respond to stories and remember them more than we remember facts or figures or numbers. In fact, great storytelling moves us to action in a way that nothing really can. Storytelling is that primary tool for human communication, and it helps to deepen the understanding of your organization's mission and impact. It moves us to action through emotional connection, and it helps create context and the community. So it helps bring your supporters together within your organization's community. It inspires supporters to spread the word of your good work. They can further tell your story if once they know and understand it. And it can also help turn one-time donors into lifelong advocates. Now here we see a Venn diagram, two sides of the coin. First on the left side, things that a charity wants to tell a donor. And then on the other side of things, things that a donor wants to hear from a charity. And just taking a look at the first 2 points real quick, what a charity might want to tell a donor, why we need your money. And then what a donor may want to hear is what you achieved with my money. The next one, from a charity's perspective, why you think you should support us, and from a donor perspective, why I made the right decision to support you. So thinking about these, it's really important to remember to involve the donor in your storytelling. They want to be involved and want to see things from their perspective. And so by making them part of the story, this will help you build a stronger, more emotional connection between you and your supporters and really help them feel more involved in your mission. Additionally, thinking about where these two sides meet is that point in the middle, how we helped solve a problem. And it's important as an organization to share how you and your donors solve that problem, which can help existing donors feel involved and closer to your work, as well as provide evidence to new and potential donors. Now, when we think about storytelling, it's important to think about the structure of your story and the different components of your story. And most commonly, your story structure should include these 5 main components. So the first being connection. This is where you establish the basics of your story. For example, who are your beneficiaries, or what is the focal point of your mission? Who is your leadership? Who makes up your leadership? Staff or board members, those who have a really deep personal connection to your mission. And essentially, you're setting the stage and setting the scene for the remainder of your storytelling here. The next component is characters. So who are the main characters of your story? For example, what do they do? So you can share this with your audience by showcasing your characters' daily life, focus on their drive and their emotions, and really you can use smaller details to help add up to a larger story. And most often your characters are made up of your beneficiaries and those involved with your organization closely. Now, the third component is conflict. So it's important to introduce the conflict of your story. What is the conflict that your beneficiaries have? Or what obstacle does your organization face? In the kind of ultimate grand scheme of things, what was the reason that your organization was created? And in this component, really use that emotional language to help drive your story there. Next comes the resolution, or your organization's proposed solution. So how can you help solve this problem, or how will donations help solve this issue? How could other items like volunteering or spreading the word and building awareness help with the conflict? What steps is your organization taking directly to resolve this conflict? So really making sure that your audience knows what are the steps in the resolution. And as the last part of your storytelling, you should end with a very, very strong call to action. And this is where you present to your audience exactly how they can take action. So be sure to involve the donor directly with the story, let them be the hero, and explain how their support will make a direct effect. And as always, from the technical side of things, just make it super easy for them to give. Now, for your story structure, you want to think less company recap and more Hollywood blockbuster. So when we think of good storytelling, Pixar, Disney, they do things really well. So think that could include things like introducing your characters and their obstacles, propose a solution to the challenges that your cause and your organization faces, and sharing what does achieving your mission look like, and really let the donors know how they can be involved and play the hero. Now, another key strategy in storytelling is showcasing your impact. And while doing so, continue to allow your donors to be part of the solution. So one strategy here is to provide specific impact metrics. For example, what does $25 help towards? What does 50, 100, $50 donation provide for beneficiaries? Providing these impact metrics can help someone really emotionally connect with the impact much easier. However, remember that people respond to stories more than they respond to facts or figures. So, one of the more common examples in an impact metric could be something like meals. So, a $50 donation can help provide meals for 50 families in the month of December. So, while we still have that fact or figure there, we're bringing in the storytelling by providing evidence on how the donation and the impact metric really makes a difference. Another way you can showcase your impact is by sharing impact videos from staff, board, volunteers, or beneficiaries. So a great way to get some storytelling out could be some testimonials from beneficiaries or even from your staff and the great work that they have seen over the years that your organization does. And video storytelling is a really great way to get the message out there quickly and have an easy way for people to get that information. And I always like to mention with video storytelling, it doesn't have to be anything super long or super overproduced. Nowadays, most smartphones have amazing cameras, so you can use a smartphone to record a 15 to 60-second video, and that could go a long way to sharing out the stories directly from the people who are being impacted by your organization. Another impact strategy would be to report how the money was spent and as accurately as possible. Sharing exactly how your money was spent helps to build trust with your donors, which can in turn encourage them to become recurring supporters of your organization. And another example is sending photos or videos or an email sharing stories of how an individual was directly impacted by donations. So again, continuing that storytelling and providing that evidence of the impact of your organization. And this fun fact is very interesting here. 98% of people donate to a cause because of impact. So it's incredibly important to introduce your organization's impact and continue sharing that out leading up into year end and honestly throughout the entire year. Now, when you're telling your story, don't forget the details. So that means remembering to include things like sharing your organization's program mission or the problems that you're solving. Also share what's at stake if your organization doesn't meet your goals or can't achieve what you're aiming to. You can share what has changed or will change and share ways to see changes and how to connect with your organization. And last, share how your mission has and will continue to grow. So if there's any plans for the future, don't be afraid to share those with your audience. Now, it's really all, one of the last strategies, it's really all about how you get your message across. It's all in the delivery. So your story can be any size to fit any format. So earlier we looked at the 5 different components that can make up your storytelling. You can use those in different ways to communicate over your different communication channels. So, for example, an email, you have a little bit more leniency and freedom to be longer in your story. So that might be a few paragraphs. You might be able to cover 1 through 5, all of the different elements and components of your story and get everything there. Versus the opposite side of the spectrum where you have a text message. Text messages are usually limited to 134 characters, so you need to be very concise in your storytelling. In the middle ground, we have social media. So you still want to be short and sweet, get your story across in as concisely as possible, but you might have a little bit more flexibility to add in a few sentences or maybe even a couple paragraphs in social media. So you can really tailor your story to fit all of your different communication mediums, regardless of the size of it, what it needs to be. And one of the great tactics there to do that is that you remember that you can break up your communication and your storytelling into smaller, bite-sized communications. So you don't always have to present the entire part of your story all at once. You may break up your story in those different 5 components over time. Perhaps the first text message or first communication you send out is introducing your characters. These are our students. These are our beneficiaries. These are who our organization works with. So you can use that one communication, for example, to introduce your characters. Maybe another social media post comes out later that talks about the conflict, and then another with the resolution. So you can really use the communications over time to break things down into those bite-sized communications. And right now is the perfect time to start doing that. You have enough time to introduce your story over the next few weeks, leading up into the very end of the year, where you can drive your call to action within those last few days of the year. Now, your story doesn't always have to be in order, so you can mix up that order of those 5 components any way you want. Maybe you share a testimonial first, so that's the resolution, the things that you helped provide services for one of your beneficiaries, and then maybe that goes back into the character, and then you present the conflict. So it can be all out of order, but what's really important is that you don't want to skip any of those components. So make sure at some point you have planned communications to share all of the different components of your story. And last but not least, your story should include an authentic appeal. So make sure that your appeal is authentic. Donors and supporters really value that authenticity and the honesty. So by being honest with your donors and authentic, you're really building that rapport, that emotional connection, and opening up the likelihood that these people will become recurring supporters and of your organization. So there are a lot of different ways to share your story, and I hope that there's tips and tricks in there for everyone that you can all use. So just think about the different storytelling components as you begin or continue to prepare for your year end, and think about if there's any things missing from your story that you haven't shared yet, and continue to tell your story for your year-end campaigns. And with that, I'm going to pass things back over to Scott.
Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing really such great insight into these storytelling strategies to really make your cause shine. Now, as a quick reminder, for everyone, if you have any questions, you can submit them into the question box on your control panel as we go along. And now, let's grab this here. There we go. Let us hear from Corey Blake to take you through storytelling tools to boost year-end visibility and giving. Take it away, Corey.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Lindsay, for those great strategies there. So yeah, now we're going to kind of look at what we can use to actually get that story out, and some examples of some organizations that have done so. The first tool that we want to look at, we call it the event page. This is really a landing page. It's a destination for people, so that in any of your communications, you're linking and providing a way for people to land in one place where they can get a more complete version of your story, your mission, and your organization. So the first thing you see here when you land here is this hero image, which is sort of this kind of main splash on the page here. Really draws in the eye and your primary call to action, those buttons that you have, donate. If it is an actual event or has an event as part of your campaign, you could have a register button, but it could just be come here, learn about it, donate. And that's your call to action. And of course, sharing in the top right corner there too. So this is really meant as a part of your storytelling. So you can have images here, you can have videos, whether live stream or pre-recorded. You can spotlight beneficiaries. Don't think of this as just a, hey, come here and donate. Really think of this as part of your storytelling, and that you can have this as kind of this canvas of images and storytelling and information that you can give them, so that when somebody lands here, it's a handoff. It's an organic handoff. So they click on the link from social media, they land here, and it's a continuation of that experience for them. So you can, as I said, you can have multiple calls to action with various buttons as they scroll down or as they just first land here. Really tell your story and give people the way to then immediately take action. And of course, it should be mobile optimized for mobile or desktop. So you never know how somebody is going to be landing on that page, if they're going to see something on social media on their phone or on their desktop. So you want to make sure that the page is dynamic and will adjust accordingly depending on that screen size. So always test in both environments when you're setting things up. So here's an example. The American Leadership Forum, they created a great looking event page, which was really just like a landing page for them to get their story across. They created this custom graphic that you're seeing here, and they just displayed it on the page here to show the impact. They then had also a video from their campaign chair and a progress circle and a donor wall to show the goal and their progress toward it. So this is a great motivator for year-end giving, because it really helps reinforce the urgency of your story. So for example, we need to reach this goal by year's end in order to accomplish our goal of whatever their impact is. The result is, say, feeding 200 kids in need or something like that. So that sense of urgency is really what's going to drive people to donate. So if they see, oh, they're so close, or if they don't hit this goal by the end of the year, these kids aren't going to be helped, I'm going to click that donate now button. So it's really important to show that. So also, not only can they feel that urgency, but when they do donate, they can see their name on their donor wall, and there's that bit of gratification as well, that they are thanked and recognized and are contributing toward the whole accomplishment of the mission. You can show as well specific impact metrics, so that you can, as you saw in a earlier slide that Lindsay was showing, you saw those giving levels, the 25, 50, 150. So you can display those and have a donate button for each level. When they click the button the level that they want, form will slide right over and show the form that they can fill out with that level already selected. You can share images as well, so this infographic that they created that we also talked about. And speaking of videos here, we kind of like briefly mentioned the video message from the campaign here, but that is in itself its own tool. So whether it is a pre-recorded video or live stream, this has a huge storytelling potential. You can have images, you can have text. Those obviously should be part of your storytelling tools, but video really elevates it. You're sort of engaging another sense, not only am I looking at it, but I can hear it. There's a reason why when Lindsay was talking about great storytellers, she was talking about Pixar and Disney and people who make motion pictures, videos effectively. They just make really long, expensive videos, and you don't need a $1 million budget, but you can get the benefits of that as well. So these videos can be smaller, bite-sized experiences, and they can really give different experiences. So you can have behind the scenes, you can do a day in the life of perhaps a beneficiary or a staff member or a volunteer. You can show your program in action. You can do a tour of a facility if you have a new building that you use as part of your mission. So there's lots of opportunities to really kind of pull the curtain behind, and show everybody, hey, this is what it's like to be part of this organization, and it draws them in and it really makes them feel a part of your mission. Live streaming. So the difference between pre-recorded and live streaming, it's live stream, it has that sense of immediacy, and this can be done on social media, or you can have it embedded on a landing page, on this event page. But it really gives that sense of immediacy, and also like they're catching something in the moment, in that live moment, they're feeling a part of that experience. So it gives a different experience versus a pre-recorded, which is, of course, they can watch it at any time. Even a live stream, of course, after it has streamed live, you can normally rewatch it. But there is a sort of a fun level to watching it as it is streaming live. But pre-recorded has its advantages, as well as more evergreen, and as something that people can return to and watch whenever, so that if they don't happen to be online at that moment, they don't feel like they've missed out. So I would look at doing both, because they each have their advantages and people are going to connect to both. And of course, you can drive people to that. That's a great opportunity, again, to use those different channels. So, okay, we're going live in 5 minutes, send that text out, or post on social media, we're going to be going live soon. So that's just another opportunity for you to reach out to your supporters and talk about something. Something's about to happen, come see it, come experience it, and hopefully come donate. So Operation Blessing is a great example. They embedded their video on their event page. So you see the kind of graphic in the top half there, and then the video right below it, this great thank you video. This is a great storytelling in this video. So it establishes a connection to their mission. It presents the challenge of meeting beneficiaries' needs in 2020. Then it showed how specific people and families were helped by their organization and in what countries. And then it showed how donors have stepped in to help, and it explained how those watching can continue to support. So if you go back to that slide that Lindsay had of those elements of storytelling, those five steps there, the video hits all of them. It goes right down the line, which is great. And look at, that graphic is really great. We'll repause that video at that 47-second point there. Let's take a look at all the good you have accomplished. So this is, again, looking at that Venn diagram Lindsay showed, where the perspectives, where just the language that you use can shift that perspective, so that it's the donor's perspective and it feels like you're talking to them, rather than, let's take a look at all the work that this organization did, which distances the viewer from the video. So anytime you can shift that perspective to say, you're doing this, do that. It really ingratiates the donor, and also connects them to the mission, and is gratifying to say, oh, when I donate, this is what happens. And it really draws those connections for them. So next tool, text message. So I mentioned before, you can use text messaging as a way to drive people to videos, but it's its own tool as well. So this is a very personal and immediate communication tool. You can really share lots of ways. You can share milestones that your nonprofit has reached. And again, that's sort of this kind of breaking news kind of feel, that immediacy of get a text, hey, we just did this thing and it was because of you. That's a great moment. You can update people on beneficiaries, and this is a great way to follow up on some storytelling that you've done. So if you've introduced a character and then later you send a text and say, hey, here's how they're doing now. That's a great moment. Updating on fundraising progress. So again, say, oh, now we have raised this much money thanks to you. Help us out to get to our goal. And of course, you can show year-end gifts, how they are being used, that sort of impact of people donated, and now we are doing X, Y, Z. And reminding the urgency. So, hey, in the last few days of the year, this is our deadline. We only have so much time left so that we can do X, Y, Z. And so as we are entering the holiday season, it's always good to revisit those traditions. And one of our traditions is these two stats. 98% of text messages are read, and 90% of them are read within 3 minutes of being received or being sent. So text messaging, that immediacy that I mentioned, that's why. It's because it pops up on your phone and you can't help but look at it. Whether even if your phone is set to vibrate, you feel it and you have to look. You just can't resist. So it's a powerful tool, but you want to pick and choose when to use that. Certainly don't want to inundate people. So choosing when to strategically, let's send that update now of that beneficiary. So that it's of value. You want to make sure that the text messages they receive really resonate with them, and so that they remain subscribed and engaged. So a great example, Ocean Family Services, and I think Lindsay showed this text earlier, but let's just take a closer look at what makes it so good. So they started out with the name, so that person that received the text, their name. So we can, if you have that donor data already and you have those names, we can upload them into an account and populate the text with their name. And that really warms the text to make it feel personal. And the language that they use throughout this really makes it personal. So Ocean Family Services mission is to make a difference in people's lives each day. And today we heard a personal story that had us all in tears. That second half of that first sentence I love, because it is so personal. It's we as an organization are moved by the work that we do, and we think you will be too. Again, that emotional response is so valuable. And then link, go watch it yourself and see, and see the story and see the incredible impact that our donors have. There's no ask on this text. The ask is just go watch this video and have this experience with us. Later, they'll follow that up with a text with an ask. But for now, that's the point of this text, of this one experience. So that's great. That is a strong call to action. It inspires me I want to see now what moved them to tears. I want to go watch that. And then of course the link is going to go right to like a YouTube video, and on a phone, that'll just fill the phone right up and the video will start playing right away. So it'll be a really smooth experience. Let's look at the next tool here, social media. So obviously this is a channel that is ever present in our lives. Even if you're not on social media, odds of your donors being on social media are extremely high. So there are, of course, multiple platforms, and you want to pick the platforms that you hopefully you're already on them. And so like Lindsay was saying, you should be communicating in the ones where you're already established. You shouldn't sort of break out a brand new platform for a year-end giving campaign. So I would say lean in on the platforms that you're getting responses. Look at your likes, the analytics on each channel, and they'll show you the times of posts that work well and the ones that are getting responses. And you want to kind of look at it holistically, sort of over time, how those perform, and kind of learn from those. But this is a great tool. Obviously, undeniably, it's compelling, powerful imagery. You can post images or texts, images or video that obviously can be accompanied by text. And text, by text, I mean not a text message, but written out words in this case. And you can tag donors, volunteers, board members, ambassadors. So this is a great way. Social media is built for engagement, and you want to take advantage of that. So by any means that you can to draw people to your posts, as well as encourage your board members, ambassadors, volunteers to share your posts out so that their followers will see what you're posting. So it kind of works two ways, right? You want to try and draw people into the post, and you want help pushing it outward so other people see it as well. And so, yeah, you can use this multitude of ways. This graphic is very good. Eye-catching call to action there with the text to donate. You can share fundraising progress. You can show impact stats. Again, when Lindsay was talking about like bite-sized pieces where you can break up all the story that you want to tell into these little pieces, this is a way to do that. You can take a piece and use it as a social media post. It doesn't have to be your whole story. So here's an example, a really powerful example. All Against Abuse Retreat is really putting the focus on their beneficiaries. And so this really compelling quote that they have here from their beneficiary, from her perspective, really talking about her experience, and the organization wants to highlight that, wants to elevate that voice and show how they can help it, help the person. So this creates a real deep connection, and that is key. So again, it's not a stat, it's one person focusing on their experience, and then the organization is linking, learn about her story of survival, and they're linking to kind of the longer story. So they're kind of doing a preview, link to the larger story, and then over time they'll say, we want to create more stories like the one of this woman's where we helped her out. We want to do more of that, and to do that we need to raise X number of dollars. So that is where you're sort of expanding out and saying, okay, you've learned about this one person, she is one of many. And so that really creates this universal story of that it could be anybody's mother, or any kind of relationship that they have in their life. So it really creates that connection. So with social media, obviously we were talking about the different platforms, and so you really want to think about each platform and the benefits of each. We have this little schedule here of what we recommend. Lindsay mentioned this in the beginning. Social media, particularly the algorithms, the way these platforms are built, you've probably heard this, that they will control how much of your feed is seen by your followers. And so you want to post more than you think, because they're not going to see all of your posts anyway. So you'll see at least two, December 26th to the 28th, and then to 5 the last few days there of the year. That may feel like a lot, but it'll take care of itself. As far as the algorithm and what people are seeing in their feed versus what you're just posting out. So Facebook, Facebook's great for info about your organization, updates on your progress towards goals, your videos, sharing those videos of impact. Like you saw that card there that you saw of the text to donate call to action, acknowledging and tagging donors. Facebook's great for all of that. Instagram has two sort of ways you can post: stories and feed, and Facebook's actually starting to do stories as well. So stories is that little sort of brief video that you sort of click into at the top, and it just sort of scrolls through everybody's stories, and they are temporary videos that will vanish. And so these are great for updates, talking about your programs that you're planning for the next year, how funds will be used, thanking donors, that's a great one, and expressing appreciation and gratitude. So these are kind of have that real immediacy to them. And then the Instagram feed are those posts that you share. Instagram usually photos, although they can be short videos. But these are sort of permanently on your feed, unless you, of course, take that, delete the post. But those are meant to be sort of something that somebody would see even if they went back to your account and kind of scrolled down your page. They would still see those where the stories will expire. So yeah, the Instagram feed, you want to have those photos of your program in action. Great for year in review pictures, quotes, and stats. There's little infographics, things like that. And then Twitter is good for photos of your work in action. You can do polls in Twitter, which is great. And you can retweet and reply. So to be engaged in other people's content, to kind of really participate in the community, showing infographics, showing your impact of donations. Let's do another social media example. So this is Catskill Animal Sanctuary. I've worked with these folks a lot, and they are wonderful. So they do this annual goat games, and one way they really work on this as a year-end kind of a thing is this really spotlighting. This is introducing their characters. So the characters for them, because they are an animal sanctuary, are animals. They're farm animals, and but they also double as beneficiaries. So of course, the animal sanctuary is helping animals. So this is introducing one of the beneficiaries, one of their characters, and adorable and really great. Anytime you can get kids and animals in there, fantastic. If that's not what your mission's about, that's okay too. Obviously, as you saw other examples, that certainly plenty of other ways to engender people to want to donate. But this is a great way to really like endear people to get to know your organization, the work you do, who they're actually helping by donating, and hopefully compel them to actually donate. Last tool, real quick. So thank yous and follow-ups. So this tool is this is so important because this is what sets you up for success for your next campaign. So once the campaign is over, be sure to thank people for what was accomplished. First-time donors who receive a personal thank you within 48 hours are 4 times more likely to give again. Our system will send out an immediate email receipt once somebody donates, and that can be personalized and be very warm. But you can always do follow-ups after that as well. But as you also want to post on social media and let people know whether they donated or not, how the campaign went, and to really show gratitude and celebrate that victory and how it's going to be implemented to create change. So a great example is this Moms in Prayer International. So this great graphic, which is, see how the sun is sort of drawing the eye to you. Again, that perspective, really savvy kind of move on the design of this. Celebrating what they've done, eye-catching, cultivates gratitude. But notice that they didn't actually hit their goal. They finished their goal. You'll see the post, this is from last year, January 12th, campaign is over. They didn't hit their goal, unfortunately, but that didn't stop them from celebrating. And so whatever you raise, obviously we always want you to hit your goal, but you want to plan for the possibility that you don't, and you should still celebrate. You should still, that is still a significant amount of money and still a win, because that money can still be used to create change and to expand their mission and do the work that they do. So always take the opportunity to celebrate how the campaign went. Well, those tools, I hope, are helpful. And those examples, I hope, get your creative juices flowing and will result in some wonderful storytelling that I look forward to seeing. Scott, back to you.
All right, thank you, both Lindsay and Corey, for sharing all your expertise and insights with us today. And I think this has been a really kind of fun and helpful topic for nonprofits as they ramp up their year-end efforts. So we really do hope all of you are tuning in and will be trying out some of these ideas soon for your own year-end campaigns and even into the new year. Now, I do want to say I've seen some great questions coming in, so definitely stick around for this. But before we go ahead and jump into our Q&A, we do have a quick poll question for everyone, and that is, are you interested in learning more? Let me go ahead and open up this poll. And again, it may take a couple of seconds here, but are you interested in learning more? Would you like a one-on-one consultation with MobileCause, or just more info about MobileCause software and services? So let's let that run for a few seconds here. All right, let's a few more seconds. Looks like it's slowing down. All right, let's go ahead and close out that poll. And so with that, yeah, let's get into at least a couple of questions here. We had some great ones coming in, so definitely stick around for this. We have first one, let me see, is from Christy. And this one is, how do you tell the story of needing to cover staff and overhead expenses? Lindsay.
Yeah, that is a great question. And as I mentioned earlier, honesty is so important. So you never want to be dishonest about where your funds are going. However, I understand that there may be a concern that overhead expenses and things like that aren't always the coolest or most attractive ways that donations are are helping your organization. So there's a little bit of a balance there. But I think it's always important to remember that your staff and those expenses are necessary to carry out your mission. So it's appropriate to share honestly what your campaign funds are going out to. But remember that it's all part of the larger part of your mission. What is your staff, or what are those expenses really going to help your beneficiaries with? And when possible, involve the donor as well. So how can the support of your donors and supporters help drive your ultimate mission, even if it's going to overhead expenses?
All right, great. So the next question here, it comes from Thomas, and I think more for Corey. How many times, or both of you either, but we'll go with Corey for the moment. How many times may we share an individual story via social media before it's oh, my thing just jumped here. Before it becomes stale and fatiguing to the donor? What would you say?
Well, I would say that there are ways to make that same story not stale. So I would say to post it once, but to then change up how you're presenting the story. So you can use the same content, but focus on a different aspect of it, change the wording, change the design. If it's like a picture or a slide or a video, do a different edit. You can make several edits of the same video. So there's ways to keep the same content and sort of shuffle it around so that if somebody is seeing it again, it might resonate with them in a different way, and they'll be more engaged than perhaps the previous post. I think probably you'd want to keep with a story for like a campaign, and then probably retire that and then move on to the next campaign and have a story or several that you are focusing on, and then move on. And you could always bring one back for a campaign in the future, but hopefully you have new stories by then anyway that you can use.
All right, great. Let's see. We actually have a couple of different questions around the idea of privacy issues when storytelling, like with beneficiaries, with in videos and things like that. So I'll open it up to either of you. What kind of what would you say about privacy?
Yeah, I can take that one. So obviously privacy of your supporters and the people working with you is very important. So I think before you share any stories out, it's important to get their permission. If they are comfortable sharing their name and even images or videos, whatever that may be, to reach out to them to make sure they're comfortable with that first. And if for any reason they're not, or it's inappropriate, or just you don't want to share their photos, you may consider like blurring faces of people who need to remain anonymous, or maybe even using some stock photos with different names swapped out while still telling the actual story. You can use kind of those placeholder names and stock photos to keep the anonymity of the people who you are telling the stories about.
All right, great. Well, it looks like let's see. We've got a couple here. I'm going to try to lump these together. One comes from Madison, the other one is from Edith. So, for, what I'm probably for Corey here. What is the ideal size or length of a post on the various social media platforms? What's the ideal length of a post on or also like what are, and it's sort of tied into that, I guess, what is the top tips to sound authentic on social media?
Okay, yeah, I'll try and take both of those. I think as far as length, when I was talking about looking at your algorithms and seeing kind of what posts perform better, this can guide you in that direction. Generally, shorter is better whenever you can be more brief. And the different platforms handle it differently. Of course, Twitter forces you into so many character accounts, but you can do multiple tweets. You can do a tweet thread. And Instagram doesn't have a character count, but it's very image focused. And, so it depends on the platform. Shorter is better. I wouldn't say there's like a magic number, but you want to not lose the heart of your story for the sake of brevity. So it is a balancing act, and it's tricky. It's something that you'll constantly experiment with. As far as authenticity, well, this again is something that I think will grow as you do it. I think you always want to sound sincere and sound authentic, in that you want to. That text earlier with the what was the organization there, with that text that I was looking at there, the Ocean Family Services, that has a great voice to it, because they are speaking as the organization, but it's personal. So it doesn't sound like a company speaking. It sounds like an individual that sent them a text message from that organization, speaking on the organization's behalf. So whenever you can do that, I think that sort of a tone works better. But every organization, I would recommend looking at other organizations' social media and seeing how they write, and you'll see things that connect to you better than others do. Some of it's just style and preference, but some of it is a way of writing that's just warmer, at the same time giving confidence that the organization is knowing what they're doing. So there's no magic bullet, but it's something that I think the more you're exposed to it, the more you'll see how you can do it for your organization.
Okay, thank you for that. It's a great one to go out on, but I do want to ask this and one last question here before we go. And honestly, probably for both of you in your experience in working with various organizations, what do you think the challenges of COVID should still be a story topic, or is it played out at this point? Start with Lindsay.
Sure, and that's a great question. And I think if your organization is still feeling those challenges from COVID, it's perfectly fine to be honest about that and bring that into your storytelling. Maybe it's not necessarily like the crux of your story at this point, but I know many organizations are still feeling the effects from that. So still sharing that as part of your story, and then maybe even bringing some uplifting thoughts into it of how have you been able to overcome some of those obstacles so far, and what are still some of the obstacles that you're facing as well.
And Corey, anything to add?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the only thing I could add is that every state is having different sort of experiences with COVID. And so I think if you are still experiencing them, I think it's, as Lindsay said, completely okay to be honest and sincere about that. And I think it's a great way to inspire giving by showing, despite these challenges, this is what we're doing.
All right, thank you so much. And so with that, everyone, we have come to the conclusion of our Q&A. But before we leave, if you are interested in discovering how MobileCause can help maximize your fundraising efforts, please fill out our post-webinar survey or request a demo so that you can see MobileCause in action. Thank you again for attending today, and best of luck in planning and running your year-end giving campaign and putting these storytelling strategies to great use. Goodbye for now, and we hope to see you again next month at MobileCause's free webinar, where we will take a look at the most creative and successful fundraising campaigns of 2021. Thanks, everyone.